The invisible human. Marcus Webb had been invisible for 7 years. Not literally, humans couldn't actually disappear, but functionally invisible in the halls of the Zenthari imperial court. He was a translator, one of hundreds, standing quietly behind diplomats and nobles, converting their words from one language to another. Nobody looked at translators. Nobody remembered their names. They were just tools, like the holographic displays or the communication devices everyone carried. Marcus preferred it that way. He stood now in the Grand Council chamber, a massive room carved from living crystal that changed colors with the mood of the Zenthari Empress. Currently, it glowed a deep purple, satisfaction. The Empress sat on her throne, surrounded by her advisors, discussing trade agreements with the human colonies in the Outer Rim. "The humans are so simple," said High Advisor Krell, his silver skin shimmering with contempt. He spoke in Zenthari, the ancient language of the ruling class. "They value friendship and trust above profit. It makes them easy to manipulate." Marcus's face remained neutral as he translated Krell's words into polite diplomatic speech for the human ambassador, who stood nearby wearing translation earpieces that received Marcus's sanitized version. "The advisor notes our people's different approaches to commerce," Marcus said smoothly into his microphone, his voice calm and professional. What the ambassador heard was nothing like what Krell had actually said. This was Marcus's job. Clean up the insults, smooth over the contempt, make sure both sides could negotiate without realizing how much they actually despised each other. 7 years of making enemies sound like friends. 7 years of being the only human who really understood what the Zenthari thought of his species. "They are like children with nuclear weapons," added Councillor Vex, laughing. "Dangerous only because they don't understand the damage they could cause. We must guide them carefully, the way one guides a toddler away from sharp objects." Marcus translated, "The Councillor emphasizes the importance of careful diplomatic guidance." Ambassador Williams nodded, completely unaware she'd just been compared to a toddler. The secret knowledge. It had taken Marcus 2 years to truly master Zenthari. Not the diplomatic language everyone learned, that was easy, designed for outsiders, with simple grammar and limited vocabulary. No, Marcus had learned true Zenthari, the court language, the one they spoke among themselves when they thought no humans were listening. He'd done it the hard way. Stolen language programs from the Imperial Library. Practiced alone in his quarters every night. Listened to thousands of hours of recordings. Gradually, phrase by phrase, he'd unlocked the secret language of the empire that ruled half the galaxy. The Zenthari never suspected. Why would they? Humans were simple. Humans couldn't handle the complexity of true Zenthari, with its 17 tenses and emotion-based pronunciation. At least, that's what the Zenthari believed. They were wrong. "The latest human colony ship departed yesterday," reported military advisor Thren, her voice carrying the harmonics that indicated strategic planning. "Project Shepherd is proceeding as scheduled." Project Shepherd. Marcus's hands tightened slightly on his translation pad, but his face showed nothing. He'd been hearing references to Project Shepherd for 3 months now, always in fragments, never fully explained. "Excellent," the Empress replied, her skin shifting to satisfied orange. "And the humans suspect nothing?" "Nothing, Your Radiance. They believe we're simply helping them establish new colonies. They don't realize each colony ship carries location trackers and population control measures." Marcus kept translating the public part of the meeting, but his mind was racing. Population control measures. Location trackers. The colony ships. For 7 years, the Zenthari had been helping humanity expand into new star systems. They provided ships, technology, resources. Everyone thought it was generosity, proof that the Zenthari wanted peace and cooperation. It wasn't generosity. It was preparation. The hidden plan. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus listened more carefully. He volunteered for extra shifts, taking translation assignments nobody else wanted. Late-night council meetings. Private briefings. Boring trade negotiations that sometimes turned into something else when the advisors thought no humans were paying attention. He learned about Operation Harvest. About the Zenthari plan to wait until humanity had spread across 50 systems, establishing colonies, building infrastructure, growing their population. And then, when humans were at their most vulnerable, stretched thin across the galaxy, the Zenthari would strike. They'd use the tracking systems to target every colony simultaneously. They'd activate the population control measures, biological weapons designed to look like natural plagues. Within a generation, humanity would be reduced to manageable numbers, perfect for slave labor in the Zenthari industrial sectors. "It's brilliant, really," Advisor Krell had said during a private meeting Marcus was translating for a minor trade delegate. "We help them spread across the galaxy, and they thank us for it. They never ask why we're so generous. They never question the technology we give them. Humans see kindness everywhere because they want to believe the universe is kind." Marcus had translated this as, "Our technological cooperation continues to strengthen both our civilizations." The human trade delegate had smiled, proud of the alliance. Marcus had wanted to scream. The decision. That night, alone in his quarters, Marcus stared at the data he'd been secretly recording. 7 years of meetings. Hundreds of hours of the Zenthari saying things they never wanted humans to hear. Plans for genocide dressed up as partnership. Conquest disguised as friendship. He could report this to Earth. Send everything to the human government and let them decide what to do. But that would take time, weeks for the message to reach Earth through official channels, more weeks for them to verify the information, months for them to formulate a response. The Zenthari would notice. They'd realize their security had been compromised. They'd accelerate their timeline or change their plans. Worse, Earth might not believe him. He was just a translator. The Zenthari Empire had spent decades building trust with humanity. Who would believe that their greatest ally was actually planning humanity's destruction? No, Marcus couldn't go through official channels. He needed to do something the Zenthari would never expect. Something they'd never see coming because they believed humans were too simple, too naive, too foolish. He needed to be smarter than an empire. The opportunity. The opportunity came 3 days later. The Empress was hosting a grand celebration, the 50th anniversary of human Zenthari first contact. Every major diplomat from both species would be there. More importantly, the Zenthari would be broadcasting the celebration to all their colony worlds, a propaganda message showing how well the partnership was working. Marcus volunteered to be the head translator for the event. "You're very dedicated," his supervisor said, approving the assignment. She was human, completely unaware of anything beyond her administrative duties. "The Empire appreciates your service." Marcus smiled politely. "I just want to help build bridges between our peoples." She beamed at him, seeing only a hard-working translator who loved his job. She didn't see what he was really planning. The celebration was held in the Imperial Hall, a space so vast it had its own weather system. Thousands of guests mingled below artificial clouds, while holographic projectors displayed scenes of human Zenthari cooperation. Happy humans working alongside benevolent Zenthari. Colony ships departing for new worlds. Children of both species playing together. All lies. Beautiful, elaborate lies. The Empress gave her speech, speaking in diplomatic Zenthari, the language designed for outsiders. She talked about friendship, cooperation, and a bright future together. Marcus translated her words faithfully. Then came the moment he'd been waiting for. "And now," the Empress announced, "as a gesture of ultimate trust and partnership, I invite Ambassador Williams to address our people in the language of the Zenthari court itself." This was new. Unexpected. Ambassador Williams looked panicked. She didn't speak court Zenthari. Nobody human did, except Marcus. "Don't worry," Marcus said smoothly, stepping forward. "I'll translate for you phrase by phrase. Just repeat what I say." Ambassador Williams nodded gratefully. The Empress smiled, amused by the human attempt to honor Zenthari culture. Marcus took a breath. The entire empire was watching, billions of Zenthari across hundreds of worlds, all tuned in to see their empress celebrate humanity's foolishness. And then Marcus began to speak. But he didn't translate the ambassador's planned speech about friendship and cooperation. Instead, in perfect court Zenthari, he revealed everything. The revelation. Citizens of the Zenthari Empire, Marcus said in flawless court Zenthari, his pronunciation perfect, his harmonics carrying the tone of solemn truth-telling. For 7 years, I have listened to your leaders speak. I have heard what they say when they think no humans understand. And now, I will share those words with you. The imperial hall went silent. The empress's skin flashed through colors Marcus had never seen before: shock, rage, confusion. He speaks the court language, someone whispered. Impossible, said another. Today, you celebrate 50 years of human Zenthari cooperation, Marcus continued, his voice steady and clear, broadcast to billions. But your leaders call it something else. They call it Operation Harvest. He played the first recording. High Advisor Krell's voice filled the hall, speaking words meant only for Zenthari ears. The humans are like children with nuclear weapons. Dangerous only because they don't understand the damage they could cause. Gasps rippled through the crowd. That was Krell's voice, unmistakably. Speaking with contempt about humanity. Marcus played more recordings. Counselor Vex discussing biological weapons. Military Advisor Thren explaining how colony ships carried tracking systems. The Empress herself approving plans to reduce humanity to manageable numbers. For 7 years, Marcus said, I have been your invisible translator. You never looked at me. You never imagined a human could learn your true language. You believed we were too simple, too naive, too stupid. He paused, letting the words sink in. You were wrong. The chaos. The imperial hall erupted. Zenthari nobles shouting. Human diplomats demanding explanations. Security forces rushing toward Marcus, but hesitating. He was broadcasting to the entire empire. Attacking him now would only confirm everything he'd revealed. Ambassador Williams stared at Marcus with her mouth open. You speak court Zenthari? Yes, ma'am. How long? 7 years. And you never told anyone? I couldn't. If they knew I understood, they'd have stopped talking in front of me. I needed to hear everything before I could act. The Empress rose from her throne, her skin now black with rage. Seize him, she commanded in court Zenthari. But Marcus smiled. You're still speaking the court language, your radiance. Everyone can hear you. The entire empire is watching. The Empress's skin flickered uncertainly. She switched to diplomatic Zenthari, the language for public consumption. This human has spread lies. Play recording 247, Marcus said calmly. His personal AI, hidden in his translation pad, complied. The Empress's own voice filled the hall. When Project Shepherd is complete, we will control every human colony. They will serve us, or they will die. Either outcome is acceptable. The Empress went silent. The empire divided. What Marcus hadn't anticipated was how the Zenthari themselves would react. He'd expected them to close ranks, to defend their empire's plans. But something else happened. A young Zenthari noble stepped forward, her skin showing the purple of deep thought. Is this true, your radiance? Have we been planning genocide? It's a security matter, the Empress said stiffly. Not for public discussion. You just discussed it publicly, another Zenthari pointed out. The whole empire heard. We heard you call them children, said an elderly Zenthari counselor. We heard you laugh at their trust. Our entire alliance is built on deception? The room divided. Some Zenthari defended their empress, arguing that humanity needed to be controlled for the empire's security. But others, many others, looked disturbed. Ashamed. Angry. This is not what we were told, a military officer said. We were told the colony program was humanitarian aid. It was strategic positioning, military advisor Thren replied coldly. Would you rather be honest or powerful? I'd rather be honorable, the officer shot back. Marcus watched the empire begin to tear itself apart. Zenthari arguing with Zenthari. Nobles questioning advisors. Military officers demanding explanations. The unity of the empire, built on centuries of cooperation, was fracturing in real time. And it was being broadcast to billions. The human response. Ambassador Williams finally found her voice. We need to contact Earth immediately. Already done, Marcus said. I sent all the recordings through encrypted channels 3 days ago. Earth's fleet is repositioning as we speak. You planned this? Someone had to. You were just a translator. Exactly. Nobody watches translators. Nobody thinks we matter. That's what made this possible. Williams looked at him with something between awe and horror. Do you realize what you've done? You might have started a war. No, Marcus said quietly. I prevented one. The war was coming whether we knew about it or not. At least now, we have a chance to survive it. The aftermath. The Zenthari Empress tried to regain control, but it was too late. The evidence was public. The empire was divided. Some sectors supported the genocide plan, seeing humanity as a threat that needed to be controlled. But others, nearly half the empire, refused to participate in what they now saw as dishonorable slaughter. The Zenthari Empire split along fracture lines that had existed for centuries, hidden beneath a surface of unity. Old grievances resurfaced. Different sectors declared independence. Some allied with humanity. Others remained loyal to the Empress. Marcus had broken an empire simply by telling the truth. Earth's response was swift and coordinated. The colony ships were recalled for safety inspections. The biological weapons were discovered and neutralized. The tracking systems were removed. Humanity's expansion into the stars continued, but now with open eyes and ready weapons. You'll never be just a translator again, Ambassador Williams told Marcus as they prepared to leave the now chaotic imperial court. Good, Marcus replied. I'm tired of being invisible. The new beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stood before the United Earth Council, receiving commendations he didn't want and attention he didn't enjoy. They called him a hero, the man who saved humanity through patience and intelligence. You spent 7 years listening, the council chairman said. 7 years being underestimated. That must have been difficult. It was necessary, Marcus replied. The Zenthari expected humans to be loud and aggressive. They expected us to fight with weapons and fleets. They didn't expect someone to simply listen and remember. And now? Now, humanity knows its enemies can be defeated with more than guns. Sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to be patient, to be underestimated, to wait for the right moment. He paused, looking at the council members. The Zenthari thought translators were tools. They forgot that tools can be turned into weapons. The legacy. The Zenthari Empire never fully recovered. Some sectors allied with humanity, forming a new confederation based on actual trust instead of deception. Others remained hostile but weakened, unable to coordinate the genocide they'd planned. Marcus became Earth's chief advisor on alien cultures, but he never forgot what he'd learned. Never trust someone who thinks you're stupid. Never underestimate the power of patience. And never, ever assume that silence means ignorance. Other species watched what happened and learned their own lessons. The human who broke an empire by simply listening. The translator who changed the galaxy. Years later, when asked what advice he'd give to young humans joining the diplomatic service, Marcus's answer was always the same. Learn the languages they don't think you can learn. Stand in the rooms where they say things they don't want you to hear. Be patient. Be invisible. And when the moment comes, be ready to speak truth that empires cannot silence. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, a new phrase emerged to describe someone who appeared weak but was actually dangerous. Beware the quiet human. Because Marcus Webb had taught the universe that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was the willingness to listen, to learn, and to wait for the perfect moment to reveal what they knew.